Alrighty, welcome back, folks. Today we got some more controversial modifications planned for the old 36 Chevy here. Alright, well, I guess what we're doing today is we're going to be working on the steering arms here. And we're actually out with the new and in with the old. So we're going to be getting rid of these new style tie rod ends and reverting back to the old school rebuildable tie rod ends. So we're going to replace this with ball end style, and these are of course seized in, so hopefully this doesn't turn into a disaster, but I'm sure it will. We're only 5 minutes into this and we've already encountered our first setback. Went to pop the old tie rod end out of here. Notice that it's already been drilled out for a tapered tie rod end, which makes sense seeing as how it does have a modern tie rod end in it. So that means that our ball end here fits kind of sloppy in there. I just randomly had a thought, a brain thought, and went to compare these, and the location of this for the drag link is in a completely different spot than it is on this earlier axle. And the reason that that is a problem is because we are running the earlier steering box and drag link. So we could heat and bend this and do whatever, but kind of two strikes and you're out. We're just going to use these steering arms, seeing as how they're already intended for the geometry of the steering and the drag link that we're using. And they haven't been messed with. They still have the original ball ends in them, even though they are ovaled out and need to be replaced. I mean, we have to replace these as well. So yeah, it'll just be easier to take these off and move on. Got these swapped out. I'm actually pretty impressed with these replacement pieces here. I wasn't too sure what to expect, but they're a nice press fit in here, and then castle nut on the back. And yeah, those should be just fine. Bought these from the filling station if anybody's curious. I'm not sponsored by them, but if you're into early Chevys, like I am, they have a lot of parts that you can buy for them, and they're pretty good to deal with. So there you go. So I'm just working on getting these 1953 backing plates modified to work on the earlier spindles and with the earlier style steering arms. So all we have to do for that is just weld up and re-drill these holes here. You can see I've already done this side here and the bolt fits nice and tight, but over here we haven't done anything. The bolt is very loose. So there's a couple different ways we could have gone about this, but for this particular application, I think this is going to work the best for us. We got the holes welded up and re-drilled on both the backing plates. Now the next problem we got is you can see here we have all these little tabs that the brake shoes ride on, and down on some of these you can see they're quite gouged up after 70 years of brake shoe abuse. They're supposed to look kind of flat, more like this. So we're just going to kind of go through here and weld up this damage and file it smooth again. I don't know if this is necessary or not, but it seems like a good idea. And if the brake shoes are riding on there, we don't want any hard edges where they're going to get bound up or whatever. So we'll try to fix it up and make it as good as we possibly can. I got all the grooves welded up and filed down as good as I care to on the backing plates. I don't know. Good enough anyways. Is it better than it was before? Yes. Okay, it's a win. Let's move on. Just a light distraction here. I I think I'm going to go to war with the steering box for my 36 just to see what I need to order for it as far as bearings and bushings and things go. So the problem we have here is that the steering wheel is badly seized on, and I tried removing it probably 3 or 4 years ago now, and eventually threw in the towel and just started soaking it with all kinds of various concoctions over the past few years. I don't want to use heat, or I would prefer not to, because I would like to fix this steering wheel just to save some money. But I guess worst case scenario, I would rather destroy the steering wheel than destroy the steering column shaft, because then we're really going to be shafted, so to speak. So what I had done a few years back is I had actually drilled and tapped in here so that I could use a conventional puller. I think the point when I gave up is when the threads ended up pulling out that I had tapped. So I did have another steering wheel that I took apart, and I think I can drill further into it here and add some more threads in, and then hopefully that'll work. Now I remember why I gave up on this 5 years ago. 5 years ago, I didn't have any bolts long enough to do this properly. And so I was going to go to the store and get some. And 5 years later, I still haven't gone to the store and I still don't have any bolts the right size. We did change things up a little bit this time. I found a bent and stripped piece of ready rod on the floor. So we're going to use that over here, and then we're going to use a bolt that's too short over here, and we're going to end up with the same results that we had 5 years ago, and then we're going to give up. Everything I do just turns into a train wreck. Thing is, by the time I get the car started and warmed up, and then drive to 3 different stores to try and find bolts, then the whole day is going to be shot. So in my mind, this is somehow going to work, which it's not going to work. It's going to fail. But I don't know. This whole place is just a train wreck. Hey, would you look at that? 5 years in the making, folks. We did it. Well, I wasted a bunch of time tearing this down and cleaning it up a bit. And compared to my 35 Chevy, this thing is mint, but it still needs to be gone through. Okay, well, much time has passed since the footage of me dismantling the steering box for this truck. And my only regret is that I wish I would have gone back in time and warned Kyle of the dangers that lie ahead for him. Young Kyle was so naive and full of hope and wonderment, and today's Kyle is much more cynical. Nice old GM part. Cool. This is going to be a first here. I'm going to actually try to put a vehicle together for myself that has a working horn. So we got the old steering column bushing out, and we got this new fancy one, and had to spend like all my rich YouTuber money on this thing. So seems like a nice piece, and hopefully it actually works. The way these work is they have this contact ring here, and then there's a couple little tentacles on the horn button. They're supposed to like contact this when you push on the horn, and then it beeps the horn. Well, there's another 10-minute job that managed to eat up half of a day. we did get the bushing in eventually. There's a lot of swearing and a lot of anger going on during that process, so I didn't film it. And you know, this bushing, it's not a bad product. Like, it seems to be well made, but for the amount of time I spent fiddling around with it to get it in here, I could have just soldered on a new wire onto this original one and been down the road. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with this. It's 90 years old. There's no slop whatsoever. It fits nice. Yeah, all I would have had to do was change the wire. So I'm more mad at myself that I spent $100 Canadian on something that I didn't need. And I originally bought it for this car, actually. And when I pulled the steering box apart on this car, even though the rest of the steering box is ruined, the bushing was still good. So then I saved it for this truck, and this bushing is still good. So I'm kind of wondering, like, supposedly this is made out of better quality materials than the original, but the original lasts 90 years. Like, is that even necessary? And like, this car is shagged. Like, this poor car, it's had a hard life, and yet that upper bushing still survived somehow. Same with this. This was laying outside for who knows how long, and I don't know how many miles were on the truck that this come out of. The situation is that they do make this bushing oversize, not just on the outer diameter, but the inner diameter as well. And so I've had this in and out many times, sanding it down to get it to press in here. And then I got it in there, and then foolish me, again, this is largely my problem, not a problem of the product itself. I never checked. I just assumed it was going to fit on the actual steering shaft, and of course, not even close, like not even close. So then I have to pull it out again and fiddle around with it more, and it still feels a little too tight on there. I guess we'll see how it is when the steering wheel is on it. But either way, it was a lot of messing around. So the conclusion is I would never buy one of these again. And the reason for that is, again, not because it's a bad product, but because I now have this one here, which if I ever do another early Chevy, I'll just clean this up, put a new wire on it, and be down the road. That if the bushing itself is actually ruined. I mean, so far, whatever they made this out of seems to be standing the test of time. So again, I'm not mad at the new bushing there. I'm just more mad at myself for, you know, spending money on something that I didn't need, and then also wasting half a day when we could have just fixed this in like 5 minutes and being done with it. And I know what you're saying, well, why don't you take stuff apart before you order parts? Well, problem is where I live, it's very expensive to get things shipped up here, and it's usually like a 3-week wait every time I need parts. So when I was ordering parts for this car, I just ordered everything that I thought I would need. I didn't want to get halfway into the job and then find out that the bushing is shot and then have to wait 3 weeks. Not to mention the shipping as well. Like, to ship even a small part like this up here, this would probably cost me like $50 Canadian, if not more, to ship up here. So it's cheaper to kind of buy everything I need in bulk and get it all shipped at once. Otherwise, I just end up getting hosed, and then again, the 3-week wait. So that was kind of the reason I bought it in the first place. Side quest here, a super nice gentleman gave me this 59 Chevy rear differential for free. So we are going to try to use this for the open drive conversion in our 36 Chevy. You can see, well, this isn't the original rear end. This is out of 35, but same deal. These trucks all had a torque tube. And for the transmission we're going to be using, we need to convert it to a regular drive shaft. And we also want to upgrade the gear set so it's a little bit more usable on the highway. Anyways, it has been sitting around for a while. It kind of wants to turn, but this side, it's tight and it's not in the drum. It's something inside here doesn't want to spin. So we're going to pull it apart and see if any of this is even usable. Again, it was free, so I can't really complain too much. You know what? It looks about the way that a free differential would look. And now we know why it's not spinning. I think it's been sitting around outside for more than a year. But it was free. You know, I keep dragging home free garbage and it ends up being garbage. I don't understand it, you know? I guess the only problem is that my dad and I wasted an entire day going to pick this up. So, yeah, I'm not quite ready to give up on it yet. Like, I don't know how much of this will do its thing. We'll try to clean it up and see if we can get it apart and see how bad it really is. Maybe it's not as bad as it looks. No, it's always as bad as it looks. Nothing is ever better than it is. Oh, perfect. Yeah, why not? It's not like it's gonna hurt anything. It's all garbage anyways. Okay, there's our rattle can rebuild on the steering assembly. I still got to go through the adjustment procedure on it, but we're going to do that once it's bolted into the truck. So let's bolt it into the truck, I guess. Wanted to give a shout out to one of our viewers, Mike Russell. He has a really cool 36 Chevy truck. I'll put a picture of it somewhere here, and he's offered to help me out with a few things. And one of the things was he measured his column drop, because mine is missing, so I'm gonna have to build a new one, but I wanted to make sure I had the right distance here, so he was kind enough to measure his truck. And he's also sent me in the steering box adjustment procedure, the original factory GMC or Chevy steering box procedure. So that's going to be extremely helpful. Once I get the rest of this put together, we'll go through and adjust the steering box. There's 3 different adjustments on it that have to be done to get it dialed in. It actually doesn't feel too bad right now, but we won't know. Again, it's all just kind of loosely assembled there. So again, thank you to Mike for helping me out with this stuff. I really appreciate that, and it will help me continue moving forward with this project. Okay, update on the differential situation here. We've decided to abandon ship here. Not that this couldn't be saved, and I wasn't too concerned with the ring and pinion or the bearings. I was just assuming this was going to need rebuilt anyways, so that wasn't a big deal. But it's just, everything is just, I mean, how much money, effort, and time are we willing to put into a crappy stock Chevy rear differential? This thing, it was obviously submerged for quite some time. This wheel bearing is seized, that's why it wasn't spinning, and the axles are poor, to say the least. There's quite a bit of wear on the splines, and this surface is all chowder. So the debate was, do I keep running around to junkyards and people's fields and trying to scrounge up another one of these differentials and then rebuild that? Some of the information I was relying on as far as these being a good fit for these trucks, it turns out it's not all as reliable as I thought it was, which again is my fault for not, measuring and verifying to begin with. Anyways, actually, kind of good news. I do have another differential now for this truck, actually a complete engine, transmission, and rear end. We just picked it up yesterday, and so this can go to the scrapyard, and we're not going to reveal, any of the engine or rear end or anything in this video, but we have found a solution that doesn't involve garbage. There's only so much I can take of working on garbage. That's all we've been doing lately, is just, everything is just a massive pile of garbage, and I finally just said, nope, no more. And the good news is that the ungarbage that we're going to be putting in this, it was cheap. So less expensive, easier to get parts for, probably more reliable, and yeah, just a win-win-win. Well, we got back from the junkyard and here's what we got. We got our 5-lug Chevy hubs. As you probably guessed by now, we've given up on the quest to have 6-bolt wheels on this thing. It just ain't worth the hassle with the rear differential situation. I know there's Toyota differentials from the 80s that are about the right width. But I don't want to run Toyota parts in my Chevy truck. So in the interest of not ruining our lives over this whole situation, we're just gonna swap it over to 5-lugs. As you can see, all we needed was these hubs, and we also need drums. The drums at the junkyard were completely beyond repair, so we'll have to get a new set of drums, which aren't too pricey. And we'll get that swapped over. Actually, before we commit to that 100% though, I want to get these ripped apart and cleaned up, make sure that they're not complete garbage, because that's going to kind of put the brakes on everything. But I mean, they came from a junkyard, so how bad could they be? Well, as usual, we got our typical aftermarket garbage situation. Not a big deal, but this is the replacement that came in the kit, and this is the original. And when we look down here, you can see the depth of this slot on the original is quite a bit more substantial than this aftermarket piece of garbage. Not a big deal, but the reason that this matters is the procedure, as far as I'm aware, for adjusting these or setting these up is you tighten them down all the way and then back them off one turn or whatever to get them to line up with a split pin or cotter key or cotter pin, wherever you're from. And the problem is I've got these aftermarket ones. Well, not right now, I backed it off, but I had them torqued right down to the point where like you couldn't even move you couldn't even turn the wheels by hand, and there's no weight on them. And I still didn't have enough to actually get a split pin cotter pin in there. And so, I mean, we can't have the steering binding, like it should move freely. So anyways, pretty simple solution, I guess. We'll just clean up the originals and toss those in. And I mean, there's absolutely nothing wrong with them. So we'll just clean these up and throw these in the garbage, I guess. Okay, it's time for the Cold War Motors Summer Dust Cap Challenge. I usually just buy new ones, you know, like a normal human being, but that guy over at Cold War Motors there, he always just fixes them. And so I kind of want to get in on the fun here and see what it's all about. So we're going to try to, you know, make these look a little bit better. I don't know what the deal is with dust caps and people hammering on them in the middle, but anyways, I was going to try and fix these, but I think in the interest of not completely wasting my entire afternoon, we're just going to spruce these ones up. And I don't know about that Cold War Motors guy and his dust cap revivals. I'm starting to think he might be some kind of a deranged lunatic, which is exactly why you need to pause this video and head on over to his channel and subscribe. Because not only does he fix smashed dust caps, but he actually fixes the vehicles that he puts them on and does beautiful restoration work. So please go check him out if you haven't already. Anyways, this is as far as I'm going with these. The main issue was, well, I guess you can't see anymore. You can kind of see on this one, I guess, they were so smashed that it was actually rubbing on the spindle, which is not desirable. So hopefully now that they've got some crown back in them, they won't do that anymore. But I guess we'll find out. The main thing is we didn't have to go into civilization, and that's always a bonus. Well, our new 5-bolt drums arrived, so we're just waiting on the paint to dry on these. Once the paint is dry on the drums and the dust caps, we can get those thrown on. And then that's pretty much going to wrap up the front end here. The only thing left is shocks, I think. But I need to get the fenders back on so I can figure out where I'm going to put my upper shock mount brackets. I was really hoping to have this thing rolling by the end of this video. We just didn't quite make it there. I'm waiting on wheels and tires to get put together so we can get the front end down on the ground. But we're very, very close to that. And oh yeah, there's one other thing that happened. So this is a pretty exciting development, at least for me. You can see now that we actually do have steering on this truck. And Why that is exciting is because in my lifetime, and for a long time even before I existed, this truck has not had steering. This is the first time this truck has had steering under it or in it, probably since, well, the early 1980s, if not even before that. I don't know when this truck was taken apart. It could have been taken apart for even longer, but it now has steering, and not only does it have steering, but it has rebuilt steering and rebuilt front end. This truck probably hasn't had a rebuilt anything on it since it rolled off the assembly line, so that's pretty good progress, I think. So next episode, we're going to get the wheels and tires put together on this thing and reveal what we went with there. We're also going to have to build ourselves a column drop. I've got some plans for that to all go together. So we're almost through the really tedious grunt work on this thing, and we can start moving into the fun stuff, like getting the rear differential in and putting an engine and transmission in this and doing all that stuff and actually making this into a truck again. So hopefully, now that we're kind of past a lot of the really horrible stuff, we can start making some good progress on this. Well, I think we're gonna wrap this one up here. I didn't get everything done that I wanted to, of course, but it's been a very busy month here at the hairstyling studio, just running around doing all kinds of stuff. So I'm hoping now we can finally just focus again on working on cars. I just got back from visiting Alberta yesterday. We were out doing a collaboration with Scott from Cold War Motors. And so again, make sure you head on over to his channel and subscribe, watch all his videos. He's gonna have kind of a documentation of what we got up to out there. It was a great time. So please go head over to his channel and check that out. And also don't forget to subscribe to the guys over at Strong's Garage. I had a visit with them, and they actually helped me out with the wheels, or tires, I guess, for the old 36 here. So again, two excellent channels that I think you should all be watching. And with that, I'm going to sign off. Thanks everyone for sticking it through this nonsense here, and we'll see you again next week.